Hi everybody, Bryan Ballreich, Production Manager at Roland DGA in Irvine, California, here with another short video. Today's topic is about white ink. So for you users that have purchased a machine from Roland that incorporates white ink, this is for you. Let's take a look, and you can see I've already got VersaWorks running. I've got a job loaded, and right off the bat, you look out here into the preview window and you can see these red crosshatch lines. That immediately tells you you've got some white data that is within the file itself. We're not creating the data yet. It's just come in with the file and it has white ink. Another way to verify that, if you carry down in this center preview window and down to the file attributes, document information, there under special items you're going to see the WH. That, and if you hover, sure enough, white ink. So this is a file that already has been prepped and includes its white ink as part of the design. So let's go ahead and double click on that just to open up the job settings. And I'm going to grow this to fit the media. And let's go jump right into our quality settings. So funny enough, now that we've got it in the quality settings, and the preview no longer shows the hatch marks. So I'm going to explain how that's happening. So let's go over here to media type, and you'll notice that we already have it on backlit. Well, backlit doesn't have any white ink modes, and that would be why at the present time you're not seeing any preview of the hash marks. So, and hash marks simply again is a visual verification that white ink is present. So to be able to see that, we need to go to a media that incorporates the white ink ability. So an easy one for us to get to is the one that's built into the VersaWorks RIP. It's called generic clear pet film. So let's go ahead and select that one. Again, no change, mainly because if we look at mode, we're still in a color only mode. So let's go ahead and shift that. And here we go. Here is a white first. That's an underlaying of white at the base, and then the color ink now is going to be put on top. So if we look over, sure enough, there's our red cross hatching. And you can see the design is thoughtfully incorporated the white. We have some areas where it's been blocked out, where paper white has been allowed to show. So a cool thing about this is this gives us the ability to work on a variety of materials, especially the specialty graphics, specialty films that are made by several companies. So one I've got here, and I don't know if this can be seen very well on your screens, but this is a shiny chrome finish. And you can see it's this design, and the white ink actually appears as text over here, showing through, and the white ink as well as shows here into the red areas. It's converse of this job where it's been reversed, where this is white and this has been left blank. That is what we're looking at here on the screen. So this is the reverse of that. But I just want to show you what the white ink can do. And in this case, we've got white ink occurring underneath some of the color channels of the face. So it's a great, and also a big block of white down here with some black text. So that's one perfect example of where you can apply this and get some really, really attractive effects. So as you're looking at that, I want you to imagine again, what are my possibilities? You literally could print this on a colored vinyl. You could put this down on a gold. You could put it on a silver. That's the beauty of white ink. It allows you to underlay areas of your image where it's necessary, and to block and or show the media coming through. You're not stuck with just good old-fashioned white materials. We can move into these really exciting vinyl films and other products, paper products that incorporate different effects and actually come up with something really beautiful that you can't do with just CMYK on white vinyl. So that really relates to what we're looking at here. We've got a large field of white, and then in this case the text has been knocked out so that the material can show through. So I wanted to indicate to you over here, if we change the mode back to color only, then we only see what was designed in the file that is color only. But I want you to pay specific attention. There's a couple things I want to start talking about with managing white ink files and how they get to our printer, and some things to watch out for specifically with white ink. So looking at this, I've changed it back to color mode, but notice the head speed is popped right back up and to our, I believe that's our maximum setting for this printer. Oh, we can go a little higher, 1019 millimeters a second. So this, again, this is the head speed. This is the speed in which the head is moved across the platen, left to right. So this is the max speed for this machine, which in this case is our BG2. So with that said, let's move it back to white ink plus color, and I want you to look and see, sure enough, our head speed has been reduced. It's now down to 847 millimeters a second. And that's going to change our print times. Notice the print time has gone quite a bit higher. I'll move it back to color only. Whoa, huge change. So really there's a mass effect here, and there's a good reason. White ink is very viscous. It's thicker. It takes longer to dry. It's denser. Basically the white component that's held within the, suspended within this liquid has its own properties, and frankly, for it to do its job, it has to be given time to rest onto the material longer than these CMYK inks that are also going to be put onto this graphic. So again, let's move it back to white and CMYK. Our print time goes way up, and part of that reason is that our head speed has been reduced. So I just wanted to kind of start giving you that concept here of what's happening and why things are happening, why the print times are going higher. It's necessary. We need the ink to dry. Many of the materials that you'll be printing on with white ink, especially things like this mylar, this chrome effect material, the surface is like glass. And frankly, the time it takes for us to build up a good looking image with white, get the density looking right, and to let it dry long enough to where we can then let the new color ink lay on top of it if needed, it's critical. And that's why these times have been increased. So there's a reason behind these times going up. We do have options. If you take a look, I'm going to change it to standard mode, and we still have the availability of white and color. Or if you choose, we can also do white as well, or just only releasing the white. This gives us some interesting basically options. So for example, there's going to be some cases where you'll really want to build up the richest white that you can get. And sometimes on different materials, it's not going to be possible to do that with a single hit of white. So if you look, I'm going to change this back. White and CMYK color. So this is letting white hit first, and then right behind it as it's traveling. So simultaneously, it's going to start laying the color ink a little bit later than the white ink. It gives the white ink a chance to start setting up, and then finally the color will be laid a little bit after it. But it'll all happen in one pass, right? If you do that, you're locked out. You really only get one hit of white and one hit of color, and both of them release simultaneously. But nice thing is I can do this. I can go to say white ink only, and let's move down, and I'm going to say use custom settings, and now I can take our overprint. Again, this is under general, so that's about midway down to the wrench symbol. If you hover, you'll see printer controls, and if you look up near the top, you'll see custom settings, and you'll see overprint. So let's go ahead and move that to 2. Now, so what we've done is we're looking at the white component only. So we've made it a white, and we chose the mode just white ink only. This is the white area that we're dealing with. We're going to release it with an overprint of 2. So we're doubling up. We're doubling the amount of ink that is going to be jetted onto the material. Now, understand that that might cause issues. Again, some materials like this chrome mylar, they take time, and now you're asking it to do more. You're going to lay down 2 coats of white. Well, just like any painting job, if you're going to lay more ink or more paint, you need time and heat and basically outgassing. You need the ink to dry. So let's go back, and I want you to pay attention here that we have a lot of controls. Knowing that we're going to do this 2 hits of white, let's go ahead and move it back to high quality. Why? you'll notice the time's jumping up. Again, now look at it. It takes into account the fact we are over print 2 and now the time is doubled, at least. So, good reason. We need more time. So if we want to even increase that even more, if we want to give our medias even more chance to do their job and to dry, let's do this. Ignore default settings for the head speed. You're in full control. This isn't going to affect your print quality. The machine knows how to handle this automatically. So I'm going to take this way down. I'm going to take 300, right? So 300 millimeters a second. We have now that head, as it's being carried across, the speed is going to be much slower. But that means every time it passes, the time it takes for that material to go to the next section and then lay the ink down again is longer. That's more time to be able to sit on that dryer and the heat source below it. That's keeping the media fresh and open and basically curing, giving the chance of, giving the ink a chance to dry. Big stuff. This is really important that you really need to keep in mind when you're playing or using white ink. So these are some of the tips I have for you. Always, when you're using white ink, think about your materials. If you run into complications, things like dry time are still in your control. You can change these settings. You can take your defaults and modify them. You can slow your head speed down. Definitely go to high quality mode. Definitely go to unidirectional. Again, each one of these is increasing that dwell time, the time that the media sits on the dryer. What happens if you don't? What are some of the complications that happen with white ink and printing to different materials? So a good example. So prior to starting this, I actually took one of our white ink samples. This one happens to be on a clear vinyl. And I basically pushed it and got it mounted onto this keyboard, which happens to be black. So you can see it's got white components behind certain areas, and some areas are just the color laying there on their own. But it allows the background material to show right through. So this is a clear area, and sure enough, it's showing the black. So this could have been a blue bike or a red car, but your design will maintain its color because underneath it you've got an underlaying of white, which basically blocks the color underneath the white. So you've now got back to your color visible from the front. A great example of what you can do with these products in clear material. But things like clear vinyls, the way they make them clear, there's a lot of complications that can set in, and they mainly have to do with shelf life. So keep in mind, always maintain fresh stock, especially if it's clear. Clear materials, you need to keep an eye on their shelf time. Only order what you need and try and get through it and not try to store it. If you do store it, try and bag it. Put it back in the original packaging it came in, or get packaging that you could put around it to basically seal it. What happens is some of the components within the vinyl material itself begin to degrade over time. It's funny, white materials don't degrade in the same way that clear materials do. Clear materials are much more susceptible to polymer migration. So the way that shows up, and especially with a white ink printer, is you'll see crazing. So a good example is shelf life has gone too long. You've got a clear material, you put it in, you expect this really nice, stable, solid field of white, but you look closely at it and it's crazed. It's like paint that's been out for ages and has reacted to the environment and has started to ridge and crack open and create all these valleys. That's an effect of the material breakdown, and the ink simply cannot adhere properly, and you get that effect. It's not attractive, and you don't want it. So shelf life, you're going to need to refer to the manufacturer specifications. Lot samples. So when you get material, they're always going to have a lot stamped on them that indicates when they were manufactured. And then you have to know that, and then you're going to have to notate when its shelf life becomes expired. That's up to you. The only way you're going to know that is to go and research on either the websites for these companies and look at the expiration of, or how long the shelf life is of each of these materials. But very critical with clear product for printing, especially with white. You're never going to see it more than when you try to lay down a nice field of white and it doesn't look quite right. So there's a high probability you've reached the end of life for that roll of material. You'll probably have to get some more new product in. Let's see. Last but not least, remember I had told you that you have that option of laying down two hits of overprint of white. So let's go back to that. Let's go ahead and change it back to white. We'll say unidirectional. We want to do it super slow. We want to change that head speed down to maybe like 300 millimeters a second. So unidirectional 300, 2 overprint, great. The only other thing we have to do is go down to the next setting down, and that is the cut controls. Under cutting options, we're going to do return to origin after print. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned this. When you're going to do this two-step process where you're going to release the white first because you want it to be super dense and you want to do 2 hits, great. But remember, you have to come back the whole way to the very origin and pick up where you were and release the color part afterwards so it lays on top of the white ink. The way to do that is simply go to cutting options, turn on return to origin after print. When you're done with that, great. You basically go back here and you turn it back to just the CMYK product, like you see on the screen represented. Make sure that you turn off the overprint, which goes back to 1. And we do not return to origin when we do this part of the job. So you get the idea. We've released the white, it finished. Oh, even better. Let's do this. Let's go back, and I'm going to do white ink only, right? Unidirectional, slowed the head down, 2 hits, right? So I'm going to go custom settings, 2 hits. And then, if you hover over printer controls, don't forget that if we want to increase the dry time even longer, you can have control under the other controls. Let's go down here to custom settings. You can leave the vacuum wherever it was or where you feel comfortable that the vacuum should be. The vacuum doesn't have anything to do with your dry time so much, but right here the dry time definitely does. So just clicking this open, most of the time I'm looking at about 3 minutes is a good time frame. So what we're asking it to do is when we've done this, 2 hits of white, gone through and produced all of the whole print as you see it here, get to the end, the machine will feed out just a little bit more so that the entirety of the print sits right on the best part of the outbound heater, and then it just lets it dry for this amount of time. When it's done, like we've programmed here, and if we go down again one more time to cutter and cutting options, and in this case return to print origin, we should have that turned on again. So you get the idea. We've printed, we've let it sit for 3 minutes. This will activate it to come back to the origin. We simply go back to the beginning, and we've gone to right here, so change it back to color only and make sure that the 2 overprint is turned off. We don't need additional dry time. You get the idea. Again, we're in total control of this. The good news, with all these different tools that we have at our disposal, it allows you to get some perfect results on a lot of varieties of materials using white ink. I particularly enjoy working with white ink, and if you've fortunate enough to have one of our machines that has it, I'm sure you understand my excitement. So again, thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in another video.